All right, we're officially live. We're waiting for people to join. So this is Community Care in Action. I am Naima. This is my sign name. I identify as she, her. And we're going to introduce you all to Mental Health Hub. I will provide a visual description. I have a long sleeve shirt, curly brown hair, and a lighter background behind me. You will see that I will drink from a pink water bottle, and I also have a teacup beside me. I'm going to pass it off to Rensa. Hello, everybody. My name is Rensa. This is my sign name. Before I delve into this, I'd like to explain that I do have an injury that I sustained last Saturday during gymnastics. I was at the Iowa School for the Deaf, and there was a slight injury. So you'll see a little bit of discoloration along my hand and fingers. So I just wanted to let you know some of that context beforehand. I have a white top with some patterns. I also have some wall decor behind me. I have some hoop earrings and my hair is in a bun. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I work with community support. I work with CSUN's program as a manager for my full-time position. I also am a cheerleader on the side in the deaf program. Great, perfect. So before we begin with Community Care in Action, I would like to thank our interpreter for showing up. Thank you all community members for your donations and for providing your knowledge, wisdom, and awareness. It's so nice to see this diversity in the space. I wanted to make sure that we all had some agreement that whether you like or don't like some of the things we provide here, the goal is still to build our own toolkit that you can use in everyday life. So this is a nice place where you can grab some of those tools and hopefully bring it with you. Everyone has their own skills and knowledge set, and community members can use that how they'd like. So I guess we have a smooth transition to start. Might have been a little bit wacky before, but from some feedback, we've helped make things a little bit more easily accessible. Community Care in Action is established from community members to discuss mental health, wellness, and other resources to help spread and find some materials that we can have everyone help each other with mental health. So thank you, Rensa, for joining us. And tonight, you're going to talk about health and safety and how we can have those dialogues. So I'm going to pass it off to you. Thank you so much for making this platform. I'd like to say that this is the perfect example that we have community resources and we can talk about mental health, therapy, and other topics that they're not really limited by how we can connect. We don't really just have to look in many different places to find these topics. We can get them sort of everywhere here. And also, these topics in the community have limited access, limited resources. So, for example, many hearing people can get these resources and listen to podcasts while you're driving in the gym, But a lot of deaf people struggle. Well, if we have to use a transcript while we're running, we won't be able to view that as well. So it's not as accessible for us. So it's important to see how different perspectives can help get rid of that limitation on viewing resources. Just know that your background, where you're from, who you are, is very important. We need to learn that by socializing with each other. We can't keep pushing each other aside. If we have questions, we need to ask. We need to approach each other with a mutual respect. It's important not to go over the line, but we can't be resistant to the idea of sharing resources with each other. If we restrict access, we make limitations in space. It's important to keep in the back of your head that you want to see different perspectives. We need more of these discussions. We really need to make more space. Yeah, so I love that we are making these spaces. We don't want to limit how we can find some of these resources. We want to make sure that the community benefits, because obviously we've seen language deprivation and a lack of access because we've had to read some transcripts and we don't have access to resources through sign. Our access is different than hearing access. Deaf space is limited. So my co-cheerleader and I have been together for a while, and how we give information to each other is different. We learn from each other. The most challenging perspective is when you have to hear things audibly and make responses to those. Other cheerleaders can hear things and respond quickly, but I feel like I have to look for the answer, and I have to struggle a little bit more than hearing people. We don't have the same access. So I'd really like to sit down, have a conversation. After I graduated from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln from my 4-year PhD, that was about 2 years now, but I finally succeeded. We heavily discussed how we can connect better by having better communication. It's possible that some topics might be important to me, and another person might view them as important as well. So it's important to share our understanding and dive into these topics so that we can create more understanding. The deaf community is strong. We all have different topics that we have to focus on. We can't just limit ourselves. We're already limited with accessible resources. So how can we look at these topics that come up simultaneously? We can't just limit ourselves by only picking one. If I want to be involved in a discussion or watch from the sidelines learning a little bit, it's important to learn more, dive in. We have to learn to adjust ourselves depending on the different topics. And we can apply ourselves in these different conversations. You can't just be in one group and not engage in these other topics. We wish to engage in more conversations. We're hungry for more information, to have more discussions, to learn why things are the way they are. Obviously, there are some small groups of people who might want to reject this idea, but really all of us hunger for more information, more connection, more relationships, more understanding. And that means that you have to be a little bit patient with resolving some of these difficulties. Some things won't resolve on their own, so you need to have discussions to resolve. If you want to resolve something now, you might need some time. You might have to engage in those discussions first. It really depends on the topic, though. So really, it's a priority to discuss these topics because hearing people will learn things passively just by listening to everything that happens around them. Deaf people really need that exposure with a visually accessible language. More often than not, we don't get exposed to as much language as as hearing people because of the barriers that are put in place. So we have to have conversations to pick up those things a little bit more than hearing people. And deaf people can get that through socializing and really being in person with others. But some people are fearful of having these conversations. So if we stay in our comfort zone, we won't really grow. We have to have conversations to open our minds and discuss with different people. Everyone has their own lived experiences, their own stories, and it'll find out who they are a little bit more. When I try to enter these discussions or learn a little bit more, I really have to think, how do I respond in person? It's easy for me to become angry and quickly respond. But if I don't speak up, then how do I know the good place to start? You can ask. And at the same time, I don't know everything, so I'm still trying to learn. This is a little bit of a tip. If I make people fearful, I think it's just important to ask. You have to give me more information. Often I'll notice that some people will think before they respond. And I don't really do the same. I think that my comments and my brain a little bit more in person help me, especially when people are watching me. So my brain will help me think about how to invite my responses without being written off. It's really a skill that we learn through experiencing frustrations and then adjusting our communication style to match the situation. It's not something you learn in school, it's something you learn through experience. There are many different opportunities to engage with others, and that's how we develop this skill. You can also learn this absolutely through traveling. You can make new friends, learn new histories. At different hostels, there are people with very strong accents, and you might experience this at a hotel or just sitting next to someone. And so you ask them where they're from, and they start speaking more to that. Maybe they're from the UK, and that's where that accent's from. But if you don't engage in that dialogue, you don't learn. So how do I get that information? I ask. Please don't be frustrated because of diversity. We really need to learn more from each other. It's important to share resources with each other. Sure, we work to increase resources for maybe deaf-blind people, and it's tough. But we want to make more accessible resources. We want to make the community more accessible. We can't limit ourselves with how many times we interact with people. The intersectionality is so deep within our culture and within everybody. We have to learn the tool of managing how we respect communication using different contexts and go ahead to learn with each other. So also, I did notice that people do respond emotionally a lot. People will hold things and forget to mention them without analyzing it first. So if you respond, it's really that instant stimulation before you can think about it. And so community members might feel complaints if you respond without holding, backing up, taking a breath, and then responding without emotion. So I wanted to ask you if you've seen that a lot. Sure. So I think about the benefit in allowing content and people respond in 2 or 3 minutes. But I want you to think about holding for 15 to 20 minutes before you respond. Think about how that might affect the other person before you respond. We need to support each other with our comments. So wait. Maybe if you want to wait until the next day and then respond, you could have a better outcome. It's not just about being the most liked comment. Really engaging with each other is so important. I know we want to have the best understanding. That's our intention. But most of the time, we don't think before we post. And sometimes it comes back to bite us. Right? Yeah. Sometimes people are angry and then respond to you or me. And they keep posting. And I try not to let it stick, but sometimes it can hurt. So keep trying to stay out of the fire. Keep in mind that space has to be clear for understanding. We frame things very differently online than we do in person. If you want to comment something online, do it like you would in person. So I wanted to wrap it up here, talking about some tip that you would give for the audience. Maybe they would have better understandings with their communication. So really, I have 2 tips. So that you can do better. First is to really look out for criticisms. Check it before you post it. Most of the time, when we look at our comments before we post it, we can help. But honestly, the second one is to be curious. Ask people questions. Don't assume. When we assume what a person says, then we misinterpret the response. So I want to frame this back on curiosity. So when we ask questions, make sure to clarify. Make sure the meaning is correct. Make sure we understand what the true message is. I'm really thankful if someone comments with true understanding. And I know people are trying, but sometimes it's tough. So make sure you watch what you say and also lead with curiosity. And we want to frame it correctly so that we can make the best understanding within our discourses. That's really a must. And that's easy for the community. Sorry, my dog is here. That's all right. Hi. So back to the point, it's really important to make the space for the community to look at ourselves and make sure that we can apply this in our everyday lives. How every day we apply this to our interactions. And really, at the end of the day, it's best not to assume, but to interact with each other. We really want to cherish each other's intersectionalities and exceptionalities because the signing community is really small. Sign language is really small. But ASL is a real language and a real community and a real culture. So we don't want to throw that to the side. We want to make sure that we have access, but we have to really care for the community as well and all of the diversity that it brings. Thank you so much for coming today, Rensa. And I hope that you can think about everything that we've just said in our responses. First, to hold and backtrack and breathe so we don't have any emotional responses before we react. Think about what others might think as well. And also be more fair when you share your emotions. Thanks so much for having me tonight. Thank you, interpreter. Hope you could keep up. Thank you. Have a great night.